This is Susan.
Good morning, Susan.
Good morning.
This is Sarah Oglesby from Florida Department of Agriculture.
Okay.
And this is Andy Rackley. I'm the Division Director of Agricultural and Environmental Services, which has feed as one of its responsibilities.
Okay. Hi, Andy.
So,
Grace, I'm on the phone as well.
good morning, Grace. Grace is from the Capitol, from Commissioner's office.
Okay.
So, Susan, this is kind of your call. You want to tell us what you want to talk about?
Well, it's been 4 months now that the first email was sent actually on February 14th, which was a Sunday. I'm sure it got received the next day, February 15th, that I asked why Florida is not enforcing, I can tell you the exact law, state law 580.071, adulteration of feed, and it says it's item H, if it is in whole or in part the product of a diseased animal or an animal that has died by means other than slaughter. So there are 4 or 5 different pet food ingredient definitions that do not hold the requirement to be sourced from a slaughtered animal. Most pet food ingredients do, but there are some that do not. Animal fat, meat and bone meal, animal digest, poultry byproducts and poultry byproducts meal, and meat meals, which would be beef meal, lamb meal, venison meal, so forth. None of those ingredients hold the requirement in their legal definition to be sourced from a slaughtered animal. So unless they are sourced from a slaughtered animal, that would mean that they violate Florida state feed law and the federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. Now, Aaron, after months and months and months, and it took State Senator Jack Latvala office assisting me to get a response from Florida, and Congressman David Jolly's office, Florida provided me with a response saying that according policy currently sanctioned by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration Center for Veterinary Medicine, the inclusion of these products is not in violation of the law. The CVM based this policy on data indicating a minimal risk associated with the remains of animals that may have died otherwise than by slaughtered once subjected to the rendering process. Well, the Federal Register states that compliance policies are not law. Reading directly from the Federal Register, it says, you refers to all affected parties outside the FDA. Are you or FDA required to follow a guidance document? No. Guidance documents do not establish legally enforceable rights or responsibilities. So if Florida is saying CVM tells us that it's safe, it's policy that CVM is basing, and that is not law. That is just policy. So then we circle back to why is Florida not enforcing that particular law? So that's my question.
Okay, let me respond to that. First of all, under our statute, it is a risk-based statute. We investigate when somebody raises a complaint about pet food or any kind of feed. And we do not go out and proactively inspect facilities. Most of the facilities that produce pet food for Florida don't exist in Florida. The statute was changed back in the 90s such that feed companies pull samples based on statute from their own facility, and they submit it to a laboratory, and we get a report. So unless we get a complaint, we're not going to investigate. And you can raise this argument over and over and over and over again, but it's not going to change, Susan.
So you're telling me that Florida is just out and out not going to enforce
No,
that law?
I'm not telling you anything. I just told you what we're doing. And quite frankly, it's based on our statute. You can read into it whatever you want to read into it, and you can write whatever you want to write on your blog, but we are going out and responding to complaints. And you raised this issue, and if it was such a big issue, we'd be getting tons and tons of complaints from consumers, and we're not. We don't have, listen to me,
Yes, sir, I will.
we are not going to do anything different than what we're doing right now. Now, you can continue to raise this issue over and over and over again, but quite frankly, if consumers of pet food in Florida had a problem, we'd be getting dozens and dozens of complaints. So you're raising an issue that, quite frankly, is not an issue.
Oh, it certainly is an issue. It's a violation of law. In every grocery store across the state of Florida, our pet foods.
We don't have any authority. We do not go out. We do not have the inspectors. We do not have the capability to go out and proactively visit with feed companies who have facilities located somewhere else in the country and make sure they're doing what you're talking about.
But Florida is a member of AFCO.
We're not going to do it. We're going to take complaints from consumers, and consumers are the ones we're trying to protect. And when consumers raise an issue, we will investigate. And the issue you're raising, quite frankly, is not an issue other than for you.
Well, I'm a consumer. Do I not matter?
Do what?
I'm a consumer. Do I not matter? I am raising an issue and I'm a consumer.
Do you have a pet complaint with feed somewhere that's made your pet sick?
I wouldn't feed an illegal feed to my pets if their life depended on it. I would not feed.
So what do you feed them?
I make their food. I make it.
Okay, well,
I go to Publix and I buy human food.
you don't have an issue, and neither do people who consume pet food in Florida. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. Quite frankly, your pets, you figured out a way to satisfy your own concern about this, and nobody else is raising this as an issue.
Okay, well, we'll see.
Issues. You can push this issue until you're blue in the face, but I'm telling you, it's not going to change what we're doing.
Okay, well, thank you for your time then.
You're welcome.
I guess we don't have anything else to discuss because Florida is not going to enforce law. So we'll take it from here.
Florida's going to continue to do what we've been doing, and that is respond to people who have concerns about pet food, which is what they want us to do, not to raise issues that you're raising, which aren't issues.
No, Florida is protecting companies, industry, that are selling adulterated products to unknowing consumers. That's what Florida is doing.
So you have any evidence of that?
Yes, every pet food that contains animal digest, animal fat, meat meal, poultry meal, poultry byproduct meal, poultry byproducts. Every single one of those. I go to the AFCO meetings. Do you go to AFCO meetings?
Yeah, we have people there.
I know,
and
those people would not respond to me when I asked the questions. Shaness Thomas, I know, I like her. She's wonderful. I have even sent a comment to Florida Department of Agriculture how I feel like she is a very fair Department of Ag person. And I talk to a lot of Department of Ag people, and they're not all fair. Okay? Shaness Thomas was at the very same meeting that I was at, August 2015 in Denver, where the Ingredient Definitions Committee stated, it was the girl from Louisiana. It is her job, she's the overall inspector of all animal ingredients. She stated in front of the whole room that poultry byproduct meal and poultry meal are sourced from non-slaughtered animals. They're ground alive. Spent laying hens, baby male chicks. It was discussed right there. She heard it. So this isn't me in my blog. This is what is actually happening. The Renderer Association, I've been on phone calls as an advisor to the committee. I've been on phone calls, AFCO meetings online and over the phone, where the Rendering Association has stated that dead, non-slaughtered animals are rendered. So I'm not making this up. I'm not pulling this out of thin air.
I understand what you're saying, but you're raising an issue, quite frankly, that is mute. If I want to say this again. I want to make sure you understand this. We do not have a program that allows us to go out and proactively pull samples and go to feed mills outside of the state to do what you're talking about doing. We look at it from the standpoint of, are there complaints, are there legitimate complaints that people's pets have become ill as a result of consuming pet food that's registered for sale in Florida? And the fact of the matter is that is not occurring. We've done, I think, nine investigations over this year, and we've not found a single case where there's anything that is a contamination in that food that would make a pet ill. So
Andy,
we're following FDA guidance. We're looking at risk-based approach.
Andy,
Frankly, that's what we're going to continue to do. So you can continue to raise this issue.
and I will,
You want to go to the legislature
and I will.
and make changes to the statute that requires something more significant. We're not going to do anything different.
Andy,
We don't have the manpower to do anything differently. We don't have the capability, and quite frankly, there's no risk out there. You raise this issue, but you're chasing a rabbit down a rabbit hole. There's
Are
no
you,
issues out there.
Andy, are you familiar with the USDA? The United States Department of Agriculture? Are you familiar with them? The USDA has a document about animal carcass disposal. And you can look this up, or I'll send it to you if you like. The USDA states...
I don't read the document. I've told you what we're going to do.
All right, that's fine.
What we're allowed to do and what we have the capability to do. And quite frankly, it's the same thing that other states are doing. And quite frankly, you can keep raising this issue, Susan, over and over and over for the sake of your blog, but it's not going to change what we do.
Let me make something very clear to you, Andy. What I do is not for the sake of my blog. It is for the sake of lives of pets. Do you know what an endotoxin is, Andy?
Listen, you're going to give me some evidence that that's...
Yeah, I can give it to you directly from USDA about endotoxins. Would you like it? I'll send it to you.
Listen, Susan, unless you can bring me evidence that there's a risk out there, specific risk to pets, which we do not see, it's not happening in Florida, we're not going any further. You can raise this issue all day long, but quite frankly, we have limited resources, and we're going to use our resources to the best of our ability to protect
Industry.
and pet owners and other animals, and this is not an issue.
Florida is not protecting pet owners. Florida is protecting industry.
Listen, that's perfectly legitimate for a position for you to take, but I'm telling you, I didn't just fall off of a turnip truck, as my dad used to say. I've been doing this for a while, and quite frankly, we know what we're doing. And quite frankly, if what you were saying were an issue and people were calling and constantly having complaints and we were investigating and finding issues with the quality of pet food, this would be a different issue. But that is not the case. Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you?
I understand what you're saying. I don't accept it because law is law.
I understand you don't accept it, but you got to at least accept the fact that we have limited resources and we're going to do a risk-based approach to feed. It's working.
No, it's not working, Andy. Pets are getting sick every day.
It's working, and pet owners are not raising complaints. We're not getting complaints. And we have not been able to confirm a single complaint where somebody had an issue that was associated with a pet that was tied to anything in the food that they were buying and feeding their pets that caused their pets to become sick.
Will Florida provide me all of the consumer complaints that the state of Florida has received over the past 2 years?
Sure.
Okay, I would like those because I'd like to then do the research. The name of the pet food needs to be included so that I can do research to see if an illegal ingredient was in any one of those
Listen,
complaints.
you can do that all day long. It's not going to change anything because we're following FDA guidance.
It's guidance, Andy. It's not law.
You may not like it, but we're following FDA guidance, and we're also doing what we can do with the resources we have, and that is when somebody raises an issue, we investigate, and quite frankly, pets are not being put in danger under Florida's feed law.
Yes, they are. The pet food is violating law. Here's one thing that you can do, and it will not cost Florida a
Give me
dime.
an example of where that's the case.
Okay, I'll listen to you instead of you listening to me.
Seriously, but quite frankly, what you're raising right now is not going to change our policy. We don't have the manpower to change it if we wanted to. But number two, we don't need to change the policy because we're not putting pets at risk in Florida. If that were the case, you'd be getting complaints that were confirmed to be caused by pet food, and that's not happening.
Andy, how many pet owners in the state of Florida know that they should report a sick pet to the state of Florida? What's the percentage, do you think?
Why would you think I would know that information?
Well, shouldn't Florida know that? Shouldn't Florida actively, since Florida has Fresh from Florida, which I support, by the way, I try to buy all Florida vegetables and fruits, okay? But I can tell you with certainty, because this is what I do for a living in educating pet food consumers. Even veterinarians do not know that they should report a suspect pet illness to Department of Agriculture and to the FDA. They do not know that. I have many veterinarians contact me.
Then, Susan, probably what you ought to do is you ought to be spending your efforts trying to educate veterinarians and those kinds of folks.
What do you think I do, Andy?
Listen to me. We're not going to continue this conversation any further. I've told you what we're doing. I've told you that this is the resources we have. If you think it's in your best interest to pursue making changes in the statute, that's up to you. Okay? But we're going to continue to do what we're doing until we get some kind of indication that something needs to be changed, and there is no indication. You can argue all day long. Listen, the speed limit in Florida on a lot of highways is 55 miles an hour.
That's really funny you brought that up, because that's the exact excuse FDA used too. But you know what? Speeding is still a violation of law, isn't it?
Listen, you may be correct.
I may be correct?
Listen,
That's quite humorous.
It's not going to change what we do. So
Okay.
unless you got something else new to bring to the table,
No, I accept the fact that Florida is...
anything else to discuss?
I accept that you're stating to me that Florida refuses to enforce state law. I thank you for your time.
I never said we refuse to.
Yes, you did.
The way we enforce it is we do it based on risk-based. When a complaint is raised, we investigate.
Law is law.
That's as much as we can do. We do not have the resources to do anything differently than that, and we will continue to do that. And if we find a feed product that's fed to pets or any other kind of animal that does not meet the standards in Florida from the standpoint of safety to the pets or the animal, we'll take action. That's what we're going to do.
But you're not going to enforce law.
I just told you what we're going to do. We're going to enforce the law, but we're going to do it based on risk-based.
No, you're not enforcing the law.
I just told you what we're going to do.
Hey guys, this is Aaron. I think it's clear that we've reached impasse. Susan, we've received your public records requests, and we'd be happy to pull 2 years of complaints as it relates to pet food and provide that to you. Again, again, I appreciate everybody's participation on this call, but I think that's going to do it for today.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you, Susan.
Bye.